Welcome, everyone, to Drivin for Bluegrass, the podcast dedicated to the incredible people behind the success of Bluegrass Dedicated. I'm your host, Jim DeCesare, and I'm excited to bring you conversation with the driving forces of our company. We'll be diving into their experiences, insights, and visions for the future. In this episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming Greg Goodrum, VP of Operations, and Kyle Kinslow, Fleet Maintenance Manager. We'll be exploring their unique perspectives on operations and fleet maintenance within Bluegrass Dedicated, uncovering the key elements of success, and gaining valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities facing the industry today. So buckle up and let's get started. Hey, Greg and Kyle, welcome to Drivin for Bluegrass. How y'all doing?
We're doing great.
Well, thanks for being on the program. You know, Greg, you've had significant experience in logistics. Can you walk us through some of the most significant changes you've witnessed in your career and how these have shaped your leadership approach?
Probably the two biggest changes that I've seen is technology and then hours of service change. I've been in the industry 23 years, so obviously technology has evolved quite a bit during that time, and being able to use it more effectively than what we did 23 years ago helps, at the end of the day, track drivers better, communicate with drivers better at the end of the day. And then hours of service with that changing, I've seen that kind of be able to utilize to make the drivers have a little bit more rest than what they did when I came into the industry. And so I think those hours have helped the driver in a way be more productive.
And are those, those technology changes and hours of service, does that increase productivity and getting things where it needs to be on time and where your customers are happy?
It does. I mean, when I got into the industry, lucky to have a driver with a cell phone. They were
a bag phone.
a bag phone. They were talking to you were talking to them over a what was called a Qualcomm unit or a satellite unit, and so guys were having to type messages out if they had service.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the cell phone and tablets that we have in our trucks, man, being able to track a driver real time versus it pinging off a satellite every 30 minutes.
Or wait for them to check in.
Or wait for them to check in and give you a call saying, hey, I'm at this customer.
Yeah.
It's made life easier and for the kind of the dispatching part of the business, but also it's also increased the efficiency for the driver to be able to keep moving, seeing where he's at. If he's running late, we can call the customer ahead of time to let them know, hey, this driver's running late, to where in the past when I started, you couldn't do that.
Yeah. And with all that, you have to have your equipment running and operating properly. And Kyle, talk about the most critical preventive maintenance practices you implement to keep the fleet running smoothly and efficiently, minimizing that downtime.
It would have to be our checklist. We've got a 120-point checklist that every truck, when it comes for a PM, we check the truck over top to bottom. Anything that we think could tear up in the future, we try to get it fixed before we send it out.
Yeah. So that 120-point checklist, I guess this is more of a question for me than maybe the listeners, but is that done every day, every time the truck is going out on the road on a trip?
So it's done every 25,000 miles.
Okay.
Or 4 months.
I got you.
So anytime it comes in for an oil change, we're checking all the tires, the wheel bearings, the wheel seals. Any part that could fail on the road, we're trying to make sure we catch it in the house before we send it out on the road.
Sure. So, Greg, what are some of the key strategies to ensure that Bluegrass Dedicated maintains a competitive edge in the ever-evolving logistics landscape?
One of the strategies is keeping our trucks on the road.
Mm-hmm.
With working with Kyle, making sure our trucks are maintained, staying up to DOT requirements, because if trucks aren't rolling, at the end of the day, the driver isn't making money and neither is Bluegrass, and we're not servicing our customers. So key strategy is making sure that the trucks are up and running, but having good equipment, keeping it clean for the drivers, is also a big part of that. Bringing new drivers in, ensuring that those trucks are clean is one strategy. Another strategy to ensuring that we're ever evolving is really staying, in tune with the business. Transportation changes daily.
Laws change,
Laws
trends change.
Yes, so just staying on top of the industry, and I do that through typically reading articles on transportation, but even just talking with customers and realizing how their needs change and being able to change with their needs.
And of course, with all that, you got to have that maintenance that Kyle was talking about. Give us an overview of how you prioritize maintenance requests and ensure that issues are addressed effectively and promptly to prevent larger, more costly problems down the road, because these aren't cheap pieces of equipment, I'm sure.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. Like if I've got a driver on the side of the road, that takes priority. I'm going to get that driver going as quick as I can, whether it be a tire or something major and we've got to send a tow truck to pick it up. But, if you've got that 10-hour break, the driver's on the 10-hour break, they've got that flat tire, I tell them to call me when they got the 10-hour break and they have that issue so I can get it fixed while they're off. However, if their 10-hour break ends at, say, 8 a.m., I'm going to wait till about 6 to call so we don't have to do that after-hour service.
Right.
But if you've got an engine light on, I can look on DeCesare and On Command that International provides, and I can look at the engine light and say, hey, this is going to shut you down. We need to get you to a shop now. Or, hey, we can wait until you get to Bowling Green and we can address it.
Yeah. So, I'm guessing that you all have relationships with other maintenance providers throughout the country, that when things like that happen, you have a go-to list of folks you can get those emergency repairs done.
Yeah, it just depends on where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in Trenton, Ohio, I've got a company I can call and they'll be out there in 30 to 45 minutes. If we're down south in Albany, Georgia, Virginia, Elkton, Virginia, it's going to be a little more time consuming trying to get somebody out there. I have those relationships with the people because I use them and they do good work.
Yeah.
And they tend to work with us a little better.
That's awesome. Greg, looking ahead, what do you see are some of the biggest opportunities for growth and improvement for Bluegrass Dedicated, and how do you plan to capitalize on these opportunities?
So for us, probably I'll start with improvement.
Mm-hmm.
For us, when I first arrived at Bluegrass, our locations we delivered to was pretty spread out. So we've gone in and started focusing on kind of a 6 to 8 state area, staying in those. And with that helps us be able to service customers better. You get a little bit more dense in that area. Your drivers are all located in that area versus being spread out over, 20 states when I was here. So being able to get some density with that, it also helps go get new customers. Customers are kind of like neighbors. They know each other,
right?
And they talk. So being able to show that you provide great service for one customer, though, the industry is relatively small as well. And so all these people talk. So knowing that one customer can lead you in the door for another customer always helps. But being able to kind of be close within a specific region helps us at the end of the day to even grow our lanes that we run for a customer and even grow business for new customers.
Yeah, and of course, word of mouth is the best advertisement you'll ever have, and when one customer is talking to a potentially new customer and telling them what a great experience they're having with Bluegrass, that you can't get a better testimonial.
You can't. That at the end of the day, word of mouth and being able to even refer a new potential customer to somebody and get that feedback,
mm-hmm.
and they tell you how well you perform. It definitely helps.
Yeah. So, Kyle, Greg talked a little bit earlier about how technology is shaping what you all do each and every day. it's also shaping the way you manage fleet maintenance. And what emerging technologies are you seeing and are most excited about?
I'm really excited about the TPMS sensor, the tire pressure monitoring system. We don't have it in the fleet yet. Hopefully, we'll be able to roll it out next year. But it'll be able to. You can have a truck anywhere in the country, and I can get on my laptop and tell you the tire pressures on it. We spend more money on tires than we do anything in the maintenance shop.
Yeah.
And like I said, on command in Samsara, I can look at an engine code anywhere in the country and tell you what's wrong with the truck, if it can make it back to Bowling Green, if you even have time to get to a dealership, so we're not broke down on the side of the road.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. And so, technology is, as you mentioned earlier, Greg, is ever evolving. And Kyle, are there any what's the coolest technology thing that you have in a truck?
It would almost be the lane departure system and the radar. It's kind of a pain for the older drivers that didn't grow up driving those trucks.
Right.
But it prevents wrecks. The truck will stop before it hits a vehicle.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and that obviously is and I'm sure having that type of technology in the Kentucky in the truck helps with insurance rates and other things that you have to do. All the admin part of running an operation, because insurance is a big part of that, and having all those safety features have to help.
I was going to say, we also have forward-facing and driver-facing cameras in the truck, which I can tell you is really truly is a game changer in my career. Seeing collisions that in the past the cop would basically just go straight to the driver and write him a ticket and put him at fault. Now with the cameras, man, I've seen so many incidents overturned quickly where the cop went just straight from going, it's the truck driver's fault, to, oh, that's really what happened.
Yeah.
And so, and getting drivers at the beginning to kind of buy into having a camera, not only facing forward, but also inside, a little bit of struggle to overcome with that new technology.
Right.
But when they realize that it benefits them and protects them, man, that is a game changer. And even for insurance, definitely puts you at the risk lowering with that.
Yeah. One of the things that I know, just because of my relationship with Bluegrass over the years, and John and others, is culture. And one of the things that I'm keenly aware of is that Bluegrass Dedicated and Bluegrass Supply has a culture of collaboration and open communication. Talk about that, and talk about the dynamic nature of culture and communication within the operations sector.
So I learned probably from day one to listen, not only to your customer, but also listen to your drivers. For me and with my team, I stress to my managers, hey, have the conversations with your drivers, understand what their difficulties is, and you'll learn from them. And use that knowledge to not only make yourself better, but the next driver that may go into that difficult customer. So you're setting them up for success, communicating around that. But so for me, it's a lot about communication. When you're trying to, if you want to say, get better and be collaboratively better as a group at the end of the day. But for me, I learned a lot of lessons from a lot of my drivers through the years.
Yeah.
And I still have. Even yesterday, I was talking with a driver and learning. He was kind of giving me the lowdown about a customer and helping me understand a little bit better. And so I took that information, and this morning I met with my management team and said, hey, at this customer, we need to be doing this particular item. to help the driver get in and out quicker. And, the same goes for customers. I was on a customer call this morning and just listening to the feedback and finding a solution to their a new problem that they presented for us that they're having a challenge with, and being able to work together and find possible resources to be able to put in place for them to overcome their problem is definitely, at the end of the day, a way to not only continue to gain business, but also learn something else in the industry.
Yeah. Well, and with any successful organization, communication is key, and that includes the things that you don't want to hear, problem solving and issues that come up. But it's also nice to hear positive feedback as well. So keep that in mind, especially for those listening. When good things happen, make sure you communicate that as well, because those are the things that you can use to learn, to grow, and to be better overall as a company.
Absolutely.
All right. Kyle, talk about some of the biggest challenges you're currently facing in managing the fleet maintenance program, and some of the creative solutions you're exploring to address those issues.
It's going to be pre-trip inspections.
Okay.
I will say this until I can't say it anymore. Pre-trips, if you don't do a pre-trip, you don't know what state your vehicle is in before you take off. When it leaves our shop, I can promise that it will be safe, but anything can happen in 500 miles. So I'm working with Greg and Harvey on a pre-trip tag system. We're hoping to roll it out at the end of June to be able to make sure our drivers are doing pre-trips. I talked about it in the safety meeting in the fall. Talked about it pretty much since I thought about it. So
you talk about it every day, I bet.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, and to again, it comes down to that communication thing. You just have to keep, it's repetitive and keeping that word going around it. That's the culture of this company. You've got to do the pre-trip inspections, and if you don't do them, it could lead to problems.
Yeah.
So, Greg, final question for you. Talk about the one piece of advice you would give to aspiring leaders in logistics industry, particularly those starting their careers now, whether they're here or somewhere else, because as you mentioned, it is a tight-knit community, and people talk among industry leaders. So tell us a little bit about that.
With the last company I was with, spent many years there. So one of the things I talked to people entering the industry, I'd always tell them, it's like, hey, look, you're going to learn the basics real quick in this industry. Being able to pick up a load, take it to point A to point B, that's kind of the easy part. But there's a lot more details than just picking up a load and getting it there. But at the same time, I'd always tell them, it's like, look, probably 3 to 4 years, you're going to know a lot about the industry, but you still don't know everything.
Right.
And so getting in, and I'd tell them, it's like, hey, whoever your manager is, your goal is to learn everything that your manager knows, and then try to one-up them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because if you one-up them and teach him something, then you're both kind of learning something new at the same time. And then just with people in the industry, one of the things I've learned is with transportation is what you make out of it. You can stay in the same spot for a lifetime. You can move around. You can move up. There's always definitely possibilities in transportation that doors are opening everywhere. Yeah. Whether or not you want to take the opportunity, could be in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It could be in, Atlanta, Georgia, but there's always a lot of opportunity for somebody entering the transportation industry to be able to move up in their career.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I'm hearing you say is that whether you're just getting into the industry or you've been in it for 20 or 30 years, knowledge is power.
It is.
And there's opportunity to learn each and every day from each other. Even that new person coming in, or that vet that's been around for a long time, lean on each other for that knowledge and inspiration and things that you need to do to make your job better and, fulfill your customers' needs and the company's needs each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Kyle, what advice would you give to drivers to help them maintain their trucks properly and contribute to the overall efficiency of the fleet?
I would tell them to walk around the truck, be curious about the truck. Don't be afraid to call me if you've got any questions. I can't help you unless I know something's broken. So walk around the truck, be curious, look at everything on the truck, and then call me if you think something's wrong so we can talk about it.
And do that pre-trip inspection, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it again because I just got done talking about it.
I'll say it for you.
I'll just add to it. I've always told guys, it's like, man, I can tell when you shortcut me. And I was like, you can be 1,000 miles away, but at the end of the day, we can tell if you shortcutted us. And that's typically when your truck breaks down, you get an inspection and you fail. We know whether managers or maintenance, we know if you did that pre-trip or not.
Yeah. Kyle, any final words for those listening? Other than do the pre-trip inspection?
That's about it, But Greg said something about going through a DOT scale. 90% of our issues at scales are for flat tires. So pull over before the scale, look at your tires, make sure we're good. I'd much rather call a road service before the scale than have them go around back at the scale.
Yeah, because that's time consuming, and that takes away from getting the product to your customer on time.
Yeah.
Greg, any final words?
Yeah, for me, I would hit on the pre-trip. Not only that, but if we get put out of service, it typically causes a service failure for our customers, which we can't afford to have. And so, but for us, we want to make sure that we're providing the most excellent service for our customers each and every day.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a great conversation, Kyle and Greg. Thank you for being on Driving for Bluegrass. That's all the time we have for today's episode of Driving for Bluegrass. A big thank you to Greg Goodrum, VP of Operations, and Kyle Kinslow, Fleet Maintenance Manager, for sharing their valuable insights and experience with us. I hope you've gained a new appreciation for the dedication and expertise that fuels the success of Bluegrass Dedicated. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation with the talented individuals driving Bluegrass Dedicated. Until then, I'm Jim DeCesare. Happy driving and safe travels.